Hi, I'm Peggy Farren, and we are live with the Understand Photography show where we talk about travel and nature photography. Welcome to episode 8. Can you believe it? We've made it 8 weeks so far. You can check out our previous shows on our understandphotography.com site. We have the show notes and everything there. We do have these videos on YouTube as well, but they're also embedded on our understandphotography.com website. So before we start today's program on cell phone photography, I just want to have a quick commercial. Our most popular course, the 4 Weeks to Proficiency in Photography, begins November 8th. Now if you're local to Naples, we have a hands-on class that starts November 1st, but our online class is live, okay? So I'm actually teaching it where you can ask questions and things like that, and then it's recorded so that if you do miss it or you want to review it, you can go back later and do it. The first class is on shooting in the manual setting. The second class is on composition. The third is on lighting and flash photography. And a lot of photographers are really lacking in the knowledge about flash, and it's really important to learn about lighting when you're a photographer. The word photography literally means writing with light, so keep that in mind. You need to learn all types of lighting. So we go through that on class number 3. And then the fourth class, I call it the techie stuff, but you're ready for it by then. But that's when we go into drive modes and white balance and focus modes and metering modes and everything like that. It's a pretty, I mean, obviously you're not going to learn everything about photography in 4 weeks, but you're going to get a solid education. One of the things that I'm learning, now I've been teaching for 7 years, and then I also run a photography studio where we have several photographers working through my company. A lot of people will say, hey, can I work for your company? And I'm an advanced photographer. And they're lacking on foundational parts of photography. So this is a foundational class. Starts November 8, and you can find the information on our website on understandphotography.com. Okay. And while you're there, look at and see what else we're offering, because we do have 3 trips coming up this season. We have the Everglades trip, which I think we've only got a couple of openings left. That's in January. We've got a ladies-only trip to Mount Dora, Florida. I think we've got 4 openings left on that. And then a St. Augustine trip planned for May. All right, so today we're going to talk about cell phone photography. First thing I'm going to do is talk about using the camera app that's already on your phone. You can't believe how many things you can do. You don't have to download a bunch of apps you can use. You have so much power right in your phone. I should probably have my phone, but you know what? I can't. I just realized, because we use my phone for backup in case there's a technical problem. We have the phone sitting there and we just go right to the phone, which we've had to do. We've had to do it twice. Or no, we didn't. We only had to do it once, but we did it when we were in St. Croix. We used the iPhone. That's right. Okay, so first things first though, make sure that you are up to date on your operating system. We're going to talk about both Androids, and iPhones, okay? So the Android's operating systems, I don't know what the latest one is, because different phones have different updates. So usually you can find out by going to your settings or the gear icon. You can figure out, go from there and see if you have the latest software. For the iPhone, it's iOS 10. That's the latest and greatest operating system for the iPhone, and that's under go to Settings, General, and then Software Update. All right, just one quick little thing. If you ever have experienced problems with having blurry pictures, usually that means your shutter speed is too slow. There's not a lot you can do when you're using an automatic camera, but the best thing for you is to learn how to hold your camera correctly. You want to hold it really steady. You don't want to pull your arms way out to do this. You want to keep your elbows in tightly so that you can get a steadier shot, okay? So your iPhone, or your cell phone I should say, is a camera like any other camera. Hold it steady. I'm holding my left, this is both video and an audio, so I can't do a lot of visual, but I automatically put my left hand underneath, because if you're holding a DSLR, a regular camera, your left hand goes underneath like a shelf so that you have a nice steady shot. With a phone, it's a little harder to do that. You're probably going to have to hold on to it with two hands, but just keep those elbows in tight, okay? So you'll have less chance of blurry pictures. That's not going to solve everything, but it'll help. Good composition is the most important thing, and both the Droid and the iPhone give you some helpers to help you with your composition. One of the things that you can do is you can add grid lines to your that you can see on the top of your camera app, so that when you're going to take a picture, you'll see these rule of third grid lines. Now, if you're not familiar with the rule of thirds, basically the rule of thirds is a compositional guideline that helps you create a better picture. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, because I'm going to talk about composition after I finish the app on the phone. Okay, so how do you do it? Well, on the iPhone, you're going to go into your gear icon and photos and camera, and then you'll see an option for grid. Now, if you don't like it, just go back in there and turn it off. But it's kind of helpful to help you, like if you want to make sure your horizons are straight, or you want to be following the rule of thirds rules. For the Android, this is how you do it on a Galaxy. It might be different on other Droids, but you click on the gear icon, and then you'll see a little box that says grid lines. Some Droids don't have that feature. If you like the idea, there's always an app. Go to your Google Play Store, download an app for grid lines. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is selective focus. Now, this has been really helpful for me. Selective focus helps you focus on what you want to focus on. So when the camera is taking a picture, it's looking for contrast, okay? So if I want to take a picture, there's a high contrast item over on the left, and I want to take a picture of something over on the right, my camera might automatically focus on the left thing, and that's not what I want to focus on. I want to focus on the thing on the right. So if you have a Samsung Galaxy, you're going to click on the gear icon, and then you can choose selective focus. With the iPhone, you just tap the screen to focus one time, but if you want to lock the focus, you hold hold your thumb down on there, or your finger, whatever you're taking the picture with. You hold it onto the picture wherever you want to focus, and it will lock the focus. It also brings up something called exposure compensation. Now, what's that? Well, exposure compensation, you can either lighten or darken the picture before you take it. And you can see, we can see what we're about to take. So look at the back of the camera, hold your finger down for a minute or so, not a minute, a few seconds, and you'll get this little slider. So you can just slide it up to brighten up the picture, or you can slide it down to darken the picture. Now, you might need that, you're probably going to need that more often than you think. Hold on though, let me tell you how to do it with the Droid. I almost forgot. Okay, with the Droid, you're going to see this little box that has a plus and minus on it. The plus is in white and the minus is in dark and black. So it's a little box, plus and minus. So click on that, and you're going to get that same slider. So you can slide it up to brighten up the picture, or down to darken the picture. So why do you need it? Well, if you're shooting into the light, if there's backlight, so say I'm the subject. In fact, if I had the window behind me, if the shade was open, I would be very backlit. So I'm going to come out like a silhouette in the picture. We don't want that, right? We want me to come out. It's all about me. So you can just, press that exposure compensation slider and slide it up so that I come out better. Now, when you do that, the background is going to go brighter, but that's something that, you kind of have to make a choice. So anytime automatic is not giving you the lighting that you want, you can use that exposure compensation slider to brighten it or darken it. Another option is HDR. Now HDR stands for high dynamic range, and a high dynamic range basic picture means that there's a lot of differences in the tone. So there's darks and there's brights. So that's a high dynamic range. So when you click on the HDR icon in your camera app, what that does is it tries to even out the lighting. It brings the shadows out. So if you're taking, for instance, taking a picture of a window, but you want part of the inside of the house to show up as well, well, either you're going to overexpose the window or the inside of the house is going to be dark, just using the regular camera app. But if you click on HDR, it's going to even out the lighting a little bit. The window's not going to be too overexposed, but it's not going to be too dark inside the house either. So it's a really, really nice option on your phones. And as far as I know, all phones have the HDR option. It really, really helps. Okay, flash. Now we all know we have a flash on our iPhones or our cell phone cameras, but it's usually the default is to have the flash in the automatic setting. So when it's bright outside, the flash is not going to pop. It doesn't think you need it. It's, you know, it's measuring the light, and the lights look, oh, this is tons of light. But there are times when you do want to flash. If you have a backlit situation, again, remember I talked about if the window was behind me was brighter and I would come out like a silhouette, well, the camera's going to measure all that light and say, hey, you know, you don't need a flash. So in your camera app, you'll see if you hit on the little lightning bolt, which is the flash icon, if you hit that, then you'll have options. Either turn it off completely, you don't want to ever go off, automatic, or on. So you can force it on. So backlit situations is one thing, if you don't want your subject to be a silhouette. Also people. I mean, that little tiny flash is not very strong, but most people look a little better with flash. I mean, especially a very light flash like that one. It's not a strong flash, so it's going to just give a little bit of fill light, get rid of some of these wrinkles, although I have pretty good lighting, don't I? If you're taking pictures at sunset, you know, I live in gorgeous Naples, Florida, and I walk down the beach sometimes at sunset and I see everybody taking pictures, and I can see that the pictures are silhouettes, and I have to control myself not to go up to everybody and say, turn your flash on, turn your flash on, turn your flash on. I learned how to control myself when my son was younger because I embarrassed him everywhere I went. So now I can control myself somewhat. It's hard though. I like to tell people what to do. Okay, so let's see what's next. Panorama. Panoramas are really easy to do on almost all of the phones in the camera apps, on Androids and iPhones, on almost all of them. It's just right in the camera app. You might have to check, I think you might have to click on mode on some of them, but you'll see pano as an option. So it's so easy to do a pano. You hit the shutter button and then you just move the camera from side to side and then hit it again when you're done. And it will actually stitch all those pictures together. So what you did was you took a bunch of pictures all in a row, even though you didn't know you were doing that, but the camera was taking a bunch of pictures all in a row, and then it has the software right inside the camera that will stitch them together and give you this long, beautiful, beautiful picture, panoramic picture. And I love panoramas. You know, especially if you don't have room, you need a wider shot, you can do a panorama. It's a great option, and it's super easy to do. Another option. Okay, I have an iPhone, but I bought the iPhone because everybody around me had droids. So I thought, well, you know, I'm teaching all these cell phone classes now, and everything changes so quickly, so I'll buy an iPhone so that I'll have an iPhone because everyone around me has droids. So now, everyone around me has iPhones and nobody has a droid. So anyway, Sierra was helping put this presentation together, and she was like, okay, well, droids have something called virtual shot. And I could not understand what she was talking about at all. So she showed me like 3 times. I'm like, I don't get it. But now I get it. Okay, so I'm going to explain it to you. It's pretty cool. Okay, it doesn't come on all droids. As far as we know, it comes on the Samsung Gallery S6 Edge, S6, and S7. Okay, and I think that's it. It's called virtual shot. So what you do is, to get it, you know, tap the camera's mode button, select virtual shot, and then you take the picture. Basically, tap the picture, and then you can move the camera around. It's kind of like the panorama, except you can go up and down and over and around, and then tap the shutter button when you're done. So what happens is the picture that you took, I kept saying, it looks like a video to me. I don't get it. What's the difference between this and a video? Well, the difference is you can move your phone to look at whatever view you want to look at. So, for instance, if I would click virtual shot, press the shutter button. I could take the picture like up at the sky, and then I could move it down to my feet, and then I could move it over to the right. So then, you know, click the shutter button to stop it. Then to look at it later, I could do the same thing. When I put the camera up, I see the stars. When I put the camera down, I see the feet. When I move the camera to the right, I see what I shot on the right. So it's really cool. Once I understood it, at first I was like, I don't get it. But it's really cool. It's not available on all of the droids, but that is a pretty cool option. Okay, so an option, a very important option in this day and age, is how do you do a selfie? You need to learn to use your timer. I bet most of you guys know how to use your timer already, but we'll just talk about it real quickly. On the iPhone, it's just an option right on your camera app. You'll see a little icon that looks like a clock. On the Galaxy, you hit the gear, and then you'll see timer as an option. So usually have a choice between 3 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. Click it. It waits 10 seconds, takes the picture. Very important to know how to do a selfie. Or you could get a selfie, or I should say, and you can get a selfie stick. That's really fun too. My first selfie stick had the Bluetooth, which was really cool, but then I broke it. So I used the timer, but I'll put the camera on the selfie stick, put the timer on 2 seconds or 10 seconds, whatever. Take the picture like that. It's pretty fun. Okay, zooming. Let's talk about zooming. On digital cameras in general, there are 2 types of zoom. There's optical zoom and there's digital zoom. Now, as far as I know, every cell phone camera has a digital zoom. Now, the digital zoom is not a zoom at all. All it's doing is cropping the image within the phone, within the computer that's your phone. So you're losing pixels. You're not actually zooming. You're just cropping in, okay? And that's bad because basically you're just taking away pixels. You're losing quality like crazy. So in my opinion, zooming is not the greatest idea unless there's no option. It's better to use your feet. Zoom with your feet. Get closer to whatever you need to get to, okay? There's another option on the iPhone called the iPhone magnifier. So that pretty much does the same thing. To do it, click Settings, General Accessibility, turn Magnifier on, and then you click your home button 3 times, and a screen comes up, and then you have a bar that you can slide to zoom in whatever you're looking at. But that does the same thing. You're just cropping in. So it's a digital zoom, not an optical zoom. So that's a little side note. If you're going to get a camera that, that doesn't have a detachable lens, you want an optical zoom, not a digital zoom, okay? Okay, what else? Burst mode. Burst mode is so much fun because you just can take a million pictures all at once. Well, maybe not a million, but a lot. So on the iPhone, it's easy. All you do is just hold the button down, the shutter button down, and it will take several pictures. On some of the Droids, you're going to have to go into, I have to remember, you have to go into mode and then select burst mode, and then same thing, just hold the shutter button down, and then you'll take a whole bunch of pictures. What's that good for? If something's going to happen, sports, like, you want to see if it's going to be a touchdown or something, you can just keep taking pictures and you'll get that ball going all the way through the goalpost or whatever. You'll get the precise moment. Or, I don't know, just it's very handy to take a lot of pictures if you need it sometimes. So keep that in mind. For the iPhone, though, okay, so in the Galaxy, it just goes, if you let's say you took 9 pictures. 9 pictures. So in the Galaxy, you just look at your photo gallery. Look in gallery, you'll see the 9 pictures. Well, in the iPhone, the first time I did it, I was like, well, how the heck do I look at the pictures? So there's a little, on the top of the first picture, there's a little words that say select or something like that. I can't remember right now, and I can't read the teleprompter. They made the little 2 letters too small. Anyway, you'll see it. It's up at the top left of the picture. You have to click on select, and then it'll open up those 9 pictures. Okay, so it's easy. It's easy, and it's really easy to take the pictures. Just hold that button down. So there's another option on the iPhone. It's on the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6 Plus, and that's called Live Photo. Well, I saw that option when I got my new phone. When I have the 6 Plus. Okay, so I must have accidentally swiped into it. It's up at the top of your camera app, and I saw that it said live, but I don't know. I was just, I'm busy. I didn't think of it. Whatever. So I was using the live option on several of my photos without really realizing it. So later I was going through my photo gallery and I thought I was losing my mind, because what live photo does is it actually takes a little video, a video that's 1.5 seconds. That's it. It's a very, very short video. So when you're scrolling through your pictures, it's like your pictures are moving. It's creepy. I don't know. It's fun. I can't really think of a good use for it, but it's kind of cute. Sure did creep me out at first, though. So you'll just see it. It's right at the top of your camera app. It says live. Very easy to use, since I used it by accident, so you could do it too. One of the things that a lot of people don't know about who have iPhones is your headphones that come with the iPhone. You can actually take a picture with those. So plug it into your camera, the headphones into your phone, and then if you press the volume up button when your camera app is open, you'll take a picture. It's so cool. So you can use it, it's not as good as a selfie stick because you can't hold it out like that, but you could place it somewhere, and be far away and take, not far away, how long are those, about like 3 feet long? You could be 3 feet away and take a picture of something. So it's kind of cool. It's a nice option to know about. Voice control. Okay, the LG Android has something just built right into their camera app called Cheese Shutter. So instead of, you actually have to choose it. Go to your camera settings, select Cheese Shutter, and then instead of hitting the shutter button, you just hold the camera, like you're going to take a picture of somebody, and just say, cheese, and it'll take the picture. Isn't that cool? They have other Galaxies have voice control as well. Tap the settings icon on the camera screen, and then you'll see voice control, so you can activate it. And I think on the Galaxy you can say like smile, cheese, capture, I forget. Oh, record video is another one. So it's pretty cool. Now the iPhone doesn't offer it yet, but of course you can always go to the App Store and buy an app if you like that idea. I think it's pretty cool. I teach this, I do this presentation for cell phones a lot. I speak, at Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs and camera clubs, and everybody's, oh my God, they think that's the coolest thing. And then us iPhone users are like, man, we can't do that. But one thing we can do that's kind of cool, it doesn't really have anything to do with taking pictures, but Siri can help an iPhone user find certain pictures. So you can say, Siri, find photos with dogs in them, and it'll bring up all your photos that have dogs in them. That's pretty cool, isn't it? You can say, find photos from May 23rd, and Siri will find those photos for you. So that's a pretty cool option. Sip of water. Okay, maybe you've noticed that you have a slideshow option right on your phone as well, because both iPhones and Androids have them built right in. Okay, so here's how you do it on here's basic Android slideshow. Now, not all Androids have this exact app, but pretty similar probably. So go to your photo gallery, just says gallery. Make sure your photos are in a grid, okay? So don't just choose one picture. Make sure they're all open like that. You're going to see 3 dots on the top right of your screen. Dot, like one over the other. So you click on that, and then you'll click select. Okay, so then it goes back to the grid, the photo with the photo grid? Photo grid. Select the photos by tapping on the ones you want, and a little green check appears on the photos as you check them, okay? Click the button that looks like the 3 dots again in the upper right corner, and click slideshow, and a slideshow will begin. Now, if you want more options, you can click right on the slideshow, and another little menu comes up, and you can change the transition, you can change the speed of the slideshow, change the filters, like if you want black and white or or something funky, or you can change the music. Another option that comes up is create video clips. So you can actually save the slideshow. So say you're at an event like, I don't know, I was going to say a wedding, but as a wedding photographer, I cannot stand when everybody and their brother is trying to take the same pictures as me. It drives me crazy because they're always in my way. Okay, let's say you're at the rehearsal dinner and you take a bunch of pictures, and you make a little slideshow, choose the bride and groom's favorite music, save it, and you can send it to them. Wouldn't that be a cute gift? Just don't be bugging me at weddings. Stay out of my way, okay? Okay, so for the iPhone slideshow, you're going to find your photo gallery. It just says photos. Make sure the photos appear as a grid. And if they don't, on the bottom there's an option, and you can see it. There's it says photos. Just click photos and you'll get the grid. Okay, in the upper right corner, press select. Select the photos you want, and then in the lower left corner, press the little box with the arrow, the same one that you use to upload. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a tall rectangular box with an arrow in it. So once you do that, you'll have an option for slideshow. Music will start playing, and it'll begin. iPhone also has a cool option called Best of the Last 3 Months slideshow. So that combines video and photo from your last 3 months. So to do that, again, go to your photo gallery, which is called Photos. Make sure the photos appear as a grid. On the bottom banner, you're going to have 3 options. Okay, one is Photos, one is Memories, and one is Albums. If you click on Memories, then you'll get the option Best of Last 3 Months album. Click play. tap the slideshow again if you want to change the music, but that's kind of a fun option too. It's just fun to do it, just to look at your own pictures from the last 3 months, you know. That's all I've got on the apps that came with your cell phone, but I bet you learned something, because I was surprised at all the cool things that come right. You don't have to download a bunch of different apps. You can, because there are a lot of cool apps, and I'm going to talk about some of those in the second half of this show. But all that stuff comes right, is right there. It's right there for you to use. So start clicking around in the camera app. You're going to find a lot of really cool things. Next thing I'm going to talk about really briefly is composition. Because the cell phone cameras are shooting in automatic, your composition matters more, basically. You can't really do all the cool things you can do with a DSLR, so you better have good composition. Good composition makes for better pictures. All right, so first I'm going to talk about what do you do. The main thing is to train your eye to find a good composition. So first you have to learn a little bit about composition. But one way is just to practice. So you could take that camera, look at the picture you're about to take, look at the image from edge to edge, and kind of move the camera around to see if there's if it looks a little better, if you don't center your subject, if you put it a little to the right or a little to the left or up high or down low. Or maybe you could take shots from different perspectives. You could be above your subject shooting down or below your subject shooting up. If you start practicing composition, you start learning it better, because then you look at the pictures you took and you're like, oh goodness, I'm never doing that again. Or oh my gosh, that looks so cool, I wish I would have thought of that earlier. So you really want to work the scene, basically, okay? A couple of don'ts. One of the things, and remember in the beginning I talked about those grid lines that you can put on your camera? Well, if your horizon's not level, that's just annoying, okay? So if you have those grid lines on your camera app, you can see if you're taking a picture. Of course, I live in Southwest Florida, so we take a lot of pictures at the beach. If the horizon is just a little bit off, it ruins the picture. Maybe it ruins for me anyway. It ruins it for all photographers. I think it does. It's just like something's a little off. So that's something that you really want to pay attention. Try to keep your lines straight. Same thing with vertical lines. If it's mostly a vertical picture, make sure the vertical lines are straight. They're not crooked or unless you're doing it intentionally. Because tilting the camera, I used to have an assistant, Cliff, if you're watching. He was so good at tilting his camera and coming up with these cool, creative shots. He would shoot low, shoot high. So I'm like, I have to get better at tilting my camera. So we'd be at a wedding, and he'd be going, tilt, tilt, tilt. So if you're tilting on purpose, make sure it's obvious that you're tilting it on purpose, okay? But most of the time you want to have your horizons or your vertical lines straight. Another big no-no for composition is you don't want to cut somebody off in a weird place. Okay, so if you're talking about people, you're going to try to avoid cropping at a joint, okay? Elbows are a little safer than anything else, but still it's better if you would crop up in the middle of the arm, the middle of the top part of your arm. What do you call that? I forgot. Anyway, whatever. But the biggest problem we see is like people chopping off like the fingertips of someone, or feet, if you see someone chopped at the ankles or the toes. For bird photographers, don't chop off the wings or the tips of the bird's feet. So you want to keep everything within the frame, or you want to crop in really tight. Try not to crop or when I say crop, I'm talking about like take the picture that way too. Try not to hit somebody in one of the joints, basically, okay? One of my pet peeves is there needs to be room whichever way your subject is facing in front of them. So if you're taking a picture of, let's say, a bird and it's facing to the left, there should be room. That bird should not be centered. There should be more room to the left of that bird than to the right of that bird. Same thing with a person, same thing with a car, same thing with an airplane. If the airplane's flying to the right, there should be room in front of it, okay? That's just a more pleasing composition for our eyes. If you have like the airplane, let's say you have the nose of the airplane right on the edge of the picture, it's jarring to us. It seems like the airplane's running into the side of the picture or something. So room in front, okay? Background distractions, of course, we all know that, but you can train yourself to watch for the backgrounds. You have to make a conscious effort to do it, because we don't want a tree growing out of somebody's head, or, you know, photo bombers who are bombing you by accident or anything like that. Look at your subject, look behind them, look at them again, okay? Sometimes all you got to do is just move yourself a tiny bit. One of the things I do a lot while I'm taking beach portraits, and there are people walking on the beach and walking on the beach, so I wait until they get directly behind my subject and I take the picture, because they're hidden behind the subject. So just try to train yourself to pay attention to the background. And then, of course, if you're somewhere that has trees or anything like that, you just have to go, oh my goodness, you have to try to figure out how to take the picture without a tree growing out of your subject's head. And it's not easy sometimes, man. The other thing is you have to have a really clear subject, okay? Sometimes I'll look at a picture when I'm judging a photo competition and I'll say, what am I supposed to be looking at in this picture? You know, normally it's a lot of the competitions I judge, there are a lot of travel scenes, okay? And it's a city or a countryside or something like that, but it's not clear. Like, there's no leading lines, there's not, like, what's the main subject I'm supposed to be looking at? Or it's way too cluttered. That's a big, big problem. If it's a cluttered picture, like, okay, what's the subject here? So keep that in mind. Have a clear subject. Our eyes enter the scene from the bottom right corner of a picture, and then they're drawn to the brightest area. So keep that in mind too. Our eyes are drawn to the brightest part of the picture. So for headshots, when I do headshots, I have a special in my studio on Tuesdays for headshots. So I do a lot of headshots. I send them a portrait preparation guide. Of course, nobody reads it, so I tell them on the phone as well. It's better to wear a medium tone or dark clothes because our eye is attracted to white. So for a headshot, when you look at your headshot, if you wore a white shirt, people are going to look at your shirt first and then your face. It's supposed to be about your face. It's a headshot. So think about that when you're working on your composition. Our eye is attracted to the brightest part of the picture. And then our eyes, if there are some leading lines, our eyes could be drawn out, or you could actually guide people through the picture by using leading lines. And what do I mean by leading lines? Leading lines could be a person. It could be like a mountain range that the angle of the range leads you up to the top of the mountain. It could be a person's arms. Again, I'm going to go back to headshots because they're easier to explain without pictures. With a headshot, when we're posing a headshot, people's arms are straight down. Well, we have them pull their arms out a little so that there's an angle. So your eye comes from the bottom right side of the picture, and because there's an angle of the arm, that leading line leads them right up to the face. If their arms are straight down, it's not the same thing, okay? It's easier to teach that with visuals. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the rule of thirds. Pretend like you have a little tic-tac-toe grid on your camera, okay? And actually, you don't even have to pretend. Remember, I showed you could put those grid lines on there. And actually, that's a really good way to learn. Put those grid lines on until you train yourself and then take them off later. Anyway, or you could just put them on while you're practicing and take them off when you're, using the camera for real. Anyway, okay, so you got the tic-tac-toe grid. Where the lines intersect, those are called PowerPoints. And you're going to have the best visual impact if you can have your subject or your point of interest on a PowerPoint. All right, let me repeat that because I'm not using visuals. Okay, so tic-tac-toe grid. So there are 4 PowerPoints where the lines intersect. So if you can put your subject of interest on the PowerPoint, it makes a bigger and better impact, okay? Now, for people, the rule of thirds, the most important thing to remember with people is their eyes should be on the rule of thirds grid line, usually the top grid line, okay? So it's okay to cut off somebody's head if you have an extreme close-up, as long as their eyes aren't too close to the top of the picture, okay? But you're going to see, okay, so if you're doing extreme close-up, the eyes are going to, the eyes are on the rule of thirds grid line, but the head's cut off. If you're doing a full shot of somebody from head to toe, then you're going to have a ton of room above their head because their eyes are still going to be on that rule of thirds grid line. Okay, so with people, remember the eyes on the rule of thirds grid line. Now with people, the horizon is not as important. It's of secondary importance, except you don't want the horizon going through somebody's head or through their neck. Neck is even worse than head, actually. Just think about that. It's kind of like cutting them off. For landscapes, the horizon is very important. You want the horizon on either the top or the bottom grid line of the rule of thirds. And then, of course, if you can, you want the item of interest on your PowerPoint. So it's learn the rule of thirds. I mean, everybody's like, oh, yeah, I know the rule of thirds, but then I'll ask them, those are just the basics, and they don't know it. So, again, 4 weeks to proficiency in photography. Starts November 8th. Less can be more. All right, remember I said you want to have a clear subject? So sometimes simplifying the picture can really help draw the viewer in and make your case for a good picture. So we have several ways to simplify the picture. One way, we call it negative space. And then you have a subject, but most of your picture is nothing. It's either the sky or the sea or maybe a plain background if you're in a studio. So we call that negative space. Now most of the time you think, oh, that doesn't sound good. It's going to have a little tiny, but think about it. Like if you have a bird flying, you could put them up at remember the PowerPoints, you could put the bird at one of the top PowerPoints with room in front, because there's got to be room in front of which way the bird is facing. And you could have a nice, beautiful sky behind him, and it would be a pretty picture. Now that I'm saying that, I know you're going to start remembering pictures you've seen with a lot of negative space. I do, when I'm doing weddings, I have the bride and groom look out to the sea, because of course where I live, most of my weddings are on the beach, and they look out to the sea, and I kind of have them on an angle so they're looking off to the right, let's say. So I'm going to have room to the right and just a bunch of just the background, just the sky. It's a really, really pretty picture. I say, look off to your future. Another thing that you want to do is eliminate background clutter as much as you can. And so how do you do that? One way is just move closer to the subject so that the background won't show as much. If you have a telephoto lens where you can zoom in, that will narrow a background. But remember, I don't want you to use that on your cell phone because it's just going to crop the picture. So don't zoom like that. Just zoom with your feet, move in closer. And just fill your frame with whatever your subject is. So Basically either have negative space or fill your frame to reduce clutter, okay? Another really nice compositional idea is use natural framing. I love to frame things with trees. That's one of my things. We just finished a photo tour or photo workshop. It was a week-long photo workshop in St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which I love. I love it there. Hello, St. Croix people. I have a lot of photographer friends there now. But we were there. We got there the day after Matthew passed by, Hurricane Matthew passed by there. So Hurricane Matthew was still going on in the rest of the world, but we were kind of safe. But then St. Croix got the, I don't know what it's called, you know, when all the extra water comes flowing over there. So the beach was almost gone. We were going out to dinner one night, and we at, you know, like a kind of casual beach restaurant, and there was a little mangrove tree, which is usually on the shore, but it was like in the water. And so I looked, I took this picture with my cell phone. You can look on my Peggy Farren Facebook page to see it. But I looked and I saw the palm tree just like framing it. Oh my God, it was so cute. And it was done with my cell phone. So frame within a frame. Trees are a great way to frame things. But you can frame with doorways, with windows. You can just, you know, natural framing is kind of cool. And then on our camera apps, in the editing part of our camera app, you can also add a vignette, like a darken the edges of the picture so that your subject pops a little better. All right, one more thing, when you're taking pictures, if you're taking objects, more than one, our eyes like odd numbers. So if you see 4 things, take one away if you can. How do you take it away? If you can take it away, you take it away. Otherwise, you just come closer to it so that you can take the picture of just 3 instead of 4. So remember, our eyes like odd numbers. So here are the 5 key points to remember about composition. Number 1, learn the rule of thirds in the PowerPoints, okay? Grid lines. For the horizons, you want your horizon on one of the rule of thirds grid lines, either the top one or the bottom one. For people, you want their eyes on the grid line. And then, of course, hopefully you can try to get your subject on a PowerPoint. Number 2, straight horizons or straight verticals. Your lines, where they're supposed to be straight, should be straight. Number 3, try to be careful with your crop. And when I say crop, I mean taking the picture, okay? So don't cut off the tips of wings. Don't cut people off at the ankles. Try to either crop in tightly or get the whole person or whatever, okay? Number 4, have a was that number 4? These aren't numbered. Have a clear subject. The minute you look at that picture, you should know what you're supposed to be looking at. You shouldn't go, well, what am I supposed to be looking at? Okay, keep that in mind. Our eyes are attracted to the biggest and brightest things in the picture, and watch your backgrounds. All right? Time for a sip of water, because we're going to go on to the next thing, and we're going to talk about sharing apps. Now you can share your pictures, you know, you can send them on email, you can send them on messaging and things like that. But I'm going to talk about places to store your pictures, okay? Dropbox, Google Drive, or iCloud. Dropbox is my favorite because I've been using it on my computer for so long. And then one of my customers told me, you know, you can just automatically save your pictures automatically to Dropbox from your iPhone. I'm like, I can? That's cool. I love that. So once you download it, download Dropbox and open it, you don't have to open it. You have to open it the first time you use it, but not after that. Basically, you're just going to click on a picture. This is on your iPhone. And you're going to get that, I don't know what that little box is, that little rectangular box with the arrow in it. You hit that, and Dropbox will come up as an option, and it'll ask you what folder you want to put it in. It's so easy to do. That's how to do it manually. But I also have mine backing up automatically. That I don't remember how to do. But I'm sure it's easy to do, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't have done it. let's see, I think it's the same, and it looks like it's the same process in your Galaxy or your Droid. iCloud comes automatically on your iPhone. Open up your settings, the Gear app, open that up, click on iCloud, click on Photos, make sure it says turn on iCloud for photo library, and then that'll automatically back up your photos to iCloud. Now, something I meant to look up before I did this presentation and I forgot, but one of the problems with iCloud is once it gets full, at least this is true 6 months ago. I don't know if it's still true, I forgot to look, but once it gets full, as new photos go in, it deletes old photos. So don't keep your pictures in iCloud forever. Just keep that in mind. It only has so much space. I don't know if this is true with Dropbox and Google Drive. You can buy more space. And I don't know if that's true with iCloud or not, but I bet it is, because they always want more money from you, right? Okay, Google Drive is another option, and I've been resistant to Google Drive, but Microsoft is teaming up with them, making it easier and easier to use Google Drive. So it's another option for backing up photos. So, just go to your app store, download the Google Drive app, sign in with your Gmail account. If you don't have a Gmail account, you can get one, they're free. Okay, click on the plus sign in the upper right corner, make a new folder called iPhone Photos or Droid Photos, whatever you want. Click on your folder, click the plus sign again, and then it gives you an option to select photos from your camera roll. Okay, so that's another place that you can back your pictures up. So let me just recap. The iCloud, usually the default is that they will back up automatically to iCloud, but go into your settings gear and just check to make sure that that's true. But you can also automatically back them up in Dropbox or send them to Dropbox. You can send more than your photos to Dropbox, by the way, so that's kind of nice. Dropbox is a really nice option, and Google Drive is pretty similar to Dropbox, coming right along. All right, I only have a few minutes, so I'm going to briefly touch on some of the most popular apps. The most popular editing app. Now, let me just back up. One of the things I didn't talk about is that you have editing apps? You have editing capability right in the camera app that came with your phone, okay? So you've got a lot built right in. You don't have to download anything. You can brighten and darken and all kinds of things. But the most popular photo editing app is Snapseed. It's got real basic stuff. It's really easy to use, but then it's also got some advanced photo editing stuff, and it's available both for the iPhone and for the Android. So that's a good option, Snapseed, and it's free, and we love free, right? But you can do all kinds of things. You have filters, you can do vignettes, you can brighten, darken. It's got really, really cool filters. Let's see, you can share to social media right from Snapseed. There's another one called Touch Retouch, and that editing app is cool because you can remove unwanted objects from your photos, like zits. Or like for me, who takes pictures of people, if I'm taking a picture of somebody on the beach and I've got somebody in the background, you can actually remove them with this Touch Retouch app. It's really cool. And it does cost money. I think it's $1.99. Pretty easy to use again. Slow Shutter Cam is another app that's really, really fun if you like to get more creative with your photography. It's called Slow Shutter Cam. It's got 3 different modes, and basically it's going to help you blur your pictures in a good way, what we call motion blur. Okay, so remember I talked about if your shutter slows down too much, you'll get blurry pictures. Well, this actually slows your shutter down, but let's say you're at a fair and they've got a Ferris wheel and you want to get that cool blur to it. Put your camera on a tripod or rest it somewhere where it's steady. Use this slow shutter cam app and you can get that effect. Or you could do put it like on a busy street. It doesn't even have to be busy. At night, and you can get like the taillights and the headlights of the cars all streaking by. So it's really, really cool. That's $1.99 as well. And you can do like this, you know, really blurry, little blurry, whatever. It's got all kinds of cool choices. 360 panorama, 360 panorama. That's a cool app too, because that basically will stitch a circle picture. It's really, really fun. It's $1.99. If you like cool apps, it's a really, really cool app. Pro HDR, that's another app I want to talk about. Remember I talked about HDR pulls out the shadows and the highlights and kind of evens out the lighting. If you are in a situation where you have a high dynamic range on a regular basis, like if you're doing a lot of, I mean, I wouldn't do real estate photography with your phone, but if that's your only option, then maybe you want this app, Pro HDR, because it's going to even the lighting out better for you. One of the new apps that when I was in St. Croix, I can't remember who told me about this app, but it's called Prisma, P-R-I-S-M-A, Prisma. That's so much fun. You can transform it's filters. It's just different filters that you can put on your photos, but it turns them into like works of art. And it copies the styles of famous artists. It copies like Vincent van Gogh, Picasso, so you can kind of choose these different filters and take pictures and turn them into creative, cool works of art. So if you follow me on Facebook, you can see some of them. From when I was in St. Croix, I went a little crazy with this app. I was like, this is cool, this is cool. Now, Pro Camera, remember I said, oh, you can't do this with your cell phone because it's all automatic, but there is an app, it's $2.99 called Pro Camera, and you can actually, it's almost like turning your cell phone into a manual mode camera. You can adjust your shutter speed and your aperture and do all kinds of cool things. That one's a little more expensive, but really, really cool if you're going to be using your phone a lot. I'm going to skip through some of this stuff because we're running out of time. Last thing I'm going to talk about is Pick Stitch. Pick Stitch is cool. You see all those little collages that people put in. Pick Stitch is a free app, really easy to use, where you can put like 3 or 4 pictures or more. I don't know how many you can put, like 1 or 2, 3, 4 pictures in a little collage and upload it to Facebook or save it or whatever you want to do. So that's kind of cool too. Okay, so cell phone photography is a lot of fun. You have so many cool things right there. Just do it. You've always got, you know, the best camera. I forget, gosh, I wish I could remember who said this because I like to give credit where credit is due. But the best camera is the camera you have on you. Now, I don't always have my big old DSLR with me, but I almost always have my cell phone with me. So there's a lot of cell phone pictures. Learn how to do them better. Why not? All right, so next week's show, I'm going to interview Joe Fitzpatrick. Now, for those of you who live in Southwest Florida, actually, if you live in Florida, you know Joe. Joe is the president of the statewide Florida Camera Club Council, Florida Camera Club. They say FCCC, Florida Camera Club Council. So he's the president. So pretty much everybody involved in the photography world in Florida knows Joe. But in Southwest Florida, he is our leading Lightroom expert. I mean, you can't throw anything at him. He knows everything about Lightroom. And if you're like me, I find Lightroom difficult. I've been using Lightroom for about 6 years, and I still I don't know how to do that. I don't know how there's so much to it. And then, where did my pictures go? I can't find my pictures. So Joe we're gonna talk about Lightroom, and Joe's gonna give us some good Lightroom tips. When I met Joe 6.5 years ago, the first thing he did was straighten out my Lightroom settings for the importing, and that saved that solved 20% of my problems. So we're going to talk about how to set Lightroom up, good Lightroom tips and things like that. The show notes are going to be on our understandphotography.com website. So if you ever go to our website, you'll see it says Understand Photography Show. Click on that, and then you can look at the videos from each episode, and then we'll have the apps listed that we talked about today, and different notes, whatever is relevant to each show. Remember the 4 weeks to proficiency in photography live interactive online class starts November 8th. If you go on our website, understandphotography.com, under training, it'll lead you to it basically. Because our motto at Understand Photography is we simplify the technical. I'm not a technical person. For me, the most important thing when I started this training center was to make things easy for people. So we try to talk in non-technical terms so that you really, really get it. And if you read the reviews, people really get it. So it makes me feel so proud. Anyway, I'm Peggy Farren, the founder of Understand Photography. Thanks for watching the Understand Photography Show. We'll see you next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with Joe Fitzpatrick as my guest.
Get up!